I had seen my fair share of wills in my career, but nothing like this. The call came early in the morning. A family estate, a recently deceased patriarch, and a mysterious box that no one seemed to know how to handle. I walked into the Crawford estate, expecting the usual tension of inheritance disputes, but the air was heavier than usual, thick with whispers and wary glances. The box sat on the desk, locked and sealed, and even from across the room I could feel the weight of its presence. Something told me this wouldn't be just another routine reading. Someone in this family was about to confront a truth they weren't ready for. The Crawford estate had always been a symbol of old money and careful appearances. From the outside, it looked like any other historic house in the small town, stately, well-maintained, and imposing. Inside, the polished wood, faded wallpaper, and scent of aged leather carried decades of family history, pride, and secrets. And now, it was the stage for a story that would reveal more than anyone had anticipated. I, Elias Mercer, had been summoned to manage the reading. My briefcase carried only my prepared documents, a pen, and the weight of experience. But as I took my seat behind the oak desk, I felt that weight in a new way. The Crawford family sat across from me, their expressions carefully curated, but I could see the flickers of tension in their eyes, subtle movements, tightened jaws, and hands clenched lightly in laps. There were 5 heirs. Lucas Crawford, the eldest son, radiated the controlled authority of someone used to leading. His posture was rigid, and his eyes held a quiet intensity. Beside him, Veronica, his wife, sat with an almost imperceptible tension, lips pressed together, hands resting lightly on her lap, eyes flicking toward the other siblings with careful calculation. Olivia Crawford, the middle daughter, carried herself with a delicate poise, but her fingers twisted a ring nervously every few moments. She was anxious but trying to maintain composure, acutely aware that every action was being observed. Ethan Crawford, the youngest son, leaned back casually in his chair, his face calm, even playful, yet his eyes betrayed a keen attentiveness. He was quietly observing, measuring, and analyzing the room like a chess player assessing moves in advance. Finally, Grace Benton, the niece of the deceased and daughter of a sibling who had left the family decades ago, sat slightly apart. Her presence was calm, yet her gaze was sharp, aware of every detail. Her claim to the estate had always been a point of contention, and she carried herself with quiet confidence that suggested she was prepared for whatever the will might reveal. I cleared my throat, projecting the calm authority I had honed over years. "Good morning," I began, making eye contact with each person in turn. "We are gathered today to read the last will and testament of Mr. Elias Crawford. I have the official documents prepared, and I will guide you through the process." A faint rustle of papers echoed in the quiet room. The antique clock on the wall ticked softly, a subtle reminder of the passage of time and the tension building with each second. "As you know," I continued, "this is a legal document. I will read it verbatim. Any questions should be held until the reading is complete. Additional correspondence or documents outside the main will be addressed afterward." The initial pages were exactly as expected. Declarations, acknowledgments of witnesses, and distributions of property and personal belongings. The room remained outwardly calm, yet I noticed the subtle reactions: Ethan's slight straightening in his chair, Olivia's quick inhale, and Lucas's micro-twitch when the paragraph addressed his inheritance. Even Grace's composed exterior betrayed the faintest ripple of curiosity. Then came the mystery box, sitting on the edge of my desk. Its dark, polished wood gleamed faintly in the morning light. The brass latch reflected the subtle tension of the room, a tangible presence that seemed to hum with the weight of untold secrets. I paused. There was nothing overtly suspicious about the box, yet its deliberate placement and the careful instructions that accompanied it hinted at significance beyond the ordinary. The box was addressed to me, the executor, and carried a peculiar instruction in the patriarch's meticulous handwriting. This box is to be opened by one heir only, chosen according to your judgment, guided by merit, honesty, and courage. The contents will reveal both reward and consequence. Choose wisely. The heirs exchanged glances. Lucas's confident mask faltered slightly. Olivia's fingers twisted nervously in her lap. Ethan's playful smirk vanished, replaced by careful calculation. Grace leaned forward slightly, her eyes fixed on me, as though daring me to make the right choice. I knew the responsibility laid heavily on me. This was more than a simple will. It was a test, a moral and ethical challenge set by the patriarch himself. The contents of the box could enrich, shock, or even destroy, depending on who was deemed worthy. I placed the box carefully on the desk, ensuring everyone could see it, but not touch it. "Inside this box," I said, keeping my voice steady, "are documents and items that may alter the distribution of the estate. The will stipulates that only one heir may open it, guided by the principles outlined in the final letter. I will review the process before any decision is made." The room remained tense, whispers fluttering like shadows across the walls. Lucas leaned forward, pressing his hands to the desk. "And how are we supposed to determine who is worthy?" he asked, his tone measured but sharp. I inhaled slowly. "The will's language is clear. The choice rests on integrity, honesty, and the heir's capacity to respect both the family legacy and the truth. I will guide you through the process, but the decision must reflect the patriarch's intentions." A hush fell over the room. Grace's expression hardened slightly, Olivia's shoulders tensed, and Ethan's calculating gaze swept over everyone silently. I then read the accompanying letter aloud, its words deliberate, reflective, and chilling. "To the executor, if you are reading this, my time has ended. The box before you contains the culmination of years of observation, family history, and decisions that may challenge the hearts of those who seek it. Choose wisely, for actions taken now will echo long after I am gone." Even I felt the weight of the patriarch's words. The box was no ordinary container. It was a reflection of character, morality, and the family's true legacy. I placed the letter beside the box. Each heir's gaze was fixed on me. I could see the unspoken truths flicker across their faces. Lucas's desire for control, Olivia's nervous hope, Ethan's detached curiosity, and Grace's quiet confidence. This was no ordinary reading. The mystery box had transformed the estate into a moral trial. And as the executor, the burden of upholding the patriarch's final intentions rested entirely on me. The first decision loomed. Who among them would even be allowed to approach the box? Each carried their own secrets, motives, and hidden agendas. And as I looked at them, I realized that the story unfolding here was about far more than inheritance. It was about truth, character, and consequences. In that quiet, sun-lit office, I felt the weight of responsibility pressing down. The mystery box was about to reveal truths that could change the family forever. And I, Elias Mercer, was the only one standing between them and the reality they were not ready to face. I'd been in tense rooms before, families fighting over land, houses, even jewelry. But this was different. This time, I could feel that the truth inside that box would not only decide who inherited wealth, but who survived the truth that came with it. The Crawford family sat in silence after I finished reading the final note from the patriarch. Outside, a soft drizzle had begun to fall against the tall windows, blurring the gray morning into streaks of silver. Inside, the ticking of the clock was the only sound that dared to move. Lucas finally broke the silence. "So," he said, his tone controlled but sharp, "you're telling us our father, God rest him, left his estate in the hands of a box and an executor's judgment?" I nodded slightly. "That's what the will specifies, Mr. Crawford. Your father's instructions were explicit. Olivia's soft voice cut in. But he wouldn't do that to us. Not really. There must be more. A letter. An explanation. Something. Grace leaned back in her chair. Seems perfectly like him, she said quietly. He always liked his tests. Ethan smirked. Yeah, tests that usually ended with him reminding us who disappointed him most. Their voices overlapped. Frustration, disbelief, anger, all bouncing off the high ceilings and polished wood. I let them speak. I'd learned over the years that letting emotions spill out early helped reveal where the real cracks were. When the noise finally ebbed, I opened my briefcase again and withdrew a small envelope, unmarked, sealed with wax. There is one more item, I said carefully. It was attached to the will. It's addressed to my heirs together. 5 sets of eyes followed the envelope as I placed it beside the box. The wax bore the Crawford family crest, a falcon and a key intertwined. I broke the seal and unfolded the letter slowly. The handwriting was steady, deliberate. To my children and kin, you have all been raised in the shadow of this house, where truth has often been traded for comfort. This box holds more than inheritance. It holds what you chose not to see. Only one among you may open it, and only if all others agree that they are fit to do so. The one who opens it must accept not only its contents, but its consequences. Olivia's hand trembled slightly as she whispered, "Consequences?" Ethan leaned forward, grinning faintly. Now it's getting interesting. Grace's gaze didn't move from the letter. He's still playing puppet master, she murmured. Lucas's jaw tightened. Enough riddles. You said one of us has to be chosen. Let's do it. Get it over with. I could feel the tension shifting, anger transforming into suspicion. Each of them began looking not at the box, but at one another. Years of buried resentment seemed to rise to the surface in seconds. I decided to guide them. The will gives me discretion to oversee the decision, but as your father instructed, this must be a collective judgment. I suggest we proceed carefully. Meaning? Ethan asked. Meaning we talk, I said. About who among you he might have trusted most, about what integrity meant to him. Lucas scoffed. He didn't trust anyone. Olivia's voice wavered. That's not true. He trusted honesty, even when it hurt. Grace folded her arms. Honesty wasn't something this family practiced much. That statement landed like a hammer. Lucas turned to her sharply. Careful, Grace. You were barely part of this family. I was part of it enough to see what it was, she shot back. Enough to know why he'd set this up. I raised my hand. Let's stay civil. The will's language implies that this is not a punishment, but a revelation. The box could contain something that brings closure, or conflict. Either way, this process is as much about your father's perception of each of you as it is about what's inside. Olivia whispered, almost to herself. He always said the truth comes with a cost. Ethan leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. All right, he said. Let's play this game. Who here thinks they were the favorite? Lucas gave a dry laugh. You? Hardly, Ethan replied. But I'm the only one not pretending to be a saint. Grace smirked. That might actually be why he'd choose you. They stared at one another, the air thick enough to slice through. I felt it building, that dangerous cocktail of grief, rivalry, and curiosity that could turn any calm room into chaos. I decided to interject. Perhaps, I said, it's worth remembering your father didn't choose who opens the box. He asked you to. Silence. Then Olivia stood, her voice steady for the first time. Then I choose Grace, she said. She's the only one here who doesn't need this house. Maybe that's why she deserves to open it. Lucas blinked in disbelief. You can't be serious. I am, Olivia said. Father always said distance gives clarity. Grace's eyebrows lifted, clearly surprised. I appreciate that, Olivia. But are you sure? If I open it, I'll have to accept whatever's inside. That's the point, Olivia replied. He trusted you more than you think. Ethan's smirk faded. Well, he said, I'll vote for Grace, too. Let's see what secrets the prodigal niece gets to uncover. Lucas's voice cut through, low and firm. I don't agree. I looked at him. You're entitled to your objection. But may I ask why? Because, he said, our father despised betrayal. Grace's mother walked out on this family and never came back. He wouldn't trust her bloodline with the final word. Grace's calm expression didn't waver, but her eyes hardened. Your father wrote this will after reconnecting with me, Lucas. You just didn't know about it. That froze him. What? I watched the blood drain slightly from his face. He came to see me last year, Grace continued quietly. He said he wanted to make peace with the past. Ethan leaned back. Oh, this just got good. I kept my tone even. That visit explained certain details in the will revision. He likely added the clause about the box then. Lucas looked at me sharply. You knew? I was informed of the revision, yes, I said. Not of its contents. The room filled with uneasy silence again. Outside, the drizzle had turned into a steady rain, tapping softly against the glass. I could sense the turning point approaching, the moment when choice would transform into consequence. I straightened in my seat. We have 3 votes for Grace, 1 against. Ethan, Olivia, and Grace herself are in agreement. Lucas, your objection is noted, but the majority stands. Lucas exhaled heavily, staring at the box as if it might bite. Fine. Let her open it. But when this blows up, don't say I didn't warn you. Grace stood slowly. Her movements were composed, deliberate. She approached the desk where the box waited, the brass latch gleaming faintly under the chandelier's light. I could see her reflection in the wood, calm, uncertain, but resolute. She looked at me. May I? I nodded. You may, Ms. Benton. But remember, once opened, you are legally bound to accept whatever it contains. She hesitated for just a moment, then unlatched the box. The metallic click echoed through the room like the snap of a verdict.
Thank you for watching this story until the end. If you found it meaningful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your support helps us continue bringing powerful, real stories from around the world.